The cold bit into Ethan Walker's skin as he trudged through the pristine snow of Blackridge Wilderness. The silence around him, deceptive. 3 years had passed since the Avalanche stole his wife Sarah and Maya, their gifted German Shepherd partner, from the world they'd built together in search and rescue. His new life as a solitary forest ranger offered no comfort, only numb routine. This morning, that routine fractured. He crouched near a thicket where subtle, unnatural indentations in the snow disrupted the otherwise untouched surface. Human tracks, concealed, intentional. Ethan's breath steamed in the air as unease settled into his bones. He followed the trail deeper into the hushed stillness of pine and frost. In a small clearing, a faint whimper stopped him. He turned toward the sound and found a pit expertly dug and hidden. Inside, a German Shepherd puppy, no older than 4 months, lay trembling, a bloody paw scratching weakly at the frozen wall. Foam clung to its mouth. Poison, he realized. Some poachers sedate animals for easier transport. This pup was dying. Ethan's instincts roared awake. He rappelled into the pit, murmuring soft words to the pup as he wrapped it in his coat. As he rose back into the snowbound world, above a deep, threatening growl froze him in place. 20 yards away, behind a fallen log, stood a full-grown German Shepherd, muscular, alert, fierce. Her leg was caught in a brutal steel trap, blood soaking the snow. Yet her stance was unyielding, protective, defiant. Then he saw the scar above her right eye, the brindle pattern on her shoulder. Maya, he breathed. Her growl faltered, hand trembling. Ethan removed his glove and extended his bare palm, the same signal he'd used during 1,000 search and rescue missions. Her ears twitched, her nostrils flared. The growl softened into a broken whine, and Ethan stepped closer. "I'm here, girl. I've got you." Her tail didn't wag. It shifted once deliberate. Recognition. He dropped to his knees in the snow, emotion breaking through the icy dam of grief. She was alive. Somehow Maya had survived alone in this unforgiving wilderness, and now she had a pup of her own to protect. But she was wounded. The pup was poisoned, and somewhere nearby someone had set these traps with surgical precision. They were out of time. Ethan's breath came fast and shallow, fogging in the bitter air. Maya's leg, clamped in a serrated industrial-grade trap, bled steadily. Illegal, lethal. Whoever placed it knew what they were doing. He glanced at the pup bundled against his chest, its breathing shallow foam, now tinged pink. "You held on for her," he whispered, eyeing Maya's rigid frame. "Now let me hold on for both of you." She didn't growl this time. When he moved, her ears twitched forward. Watching, judging, trusting. He worked quickly. His hands, numb from cold, sorted through his emergency kit until he found the atropine standard pesticide antidote for field rangers. Unproven in dogs, but it was the pup's only chance. He hesitated for only a breath before plunging the syringe into the puppy's scruff. The small body flinched, then went still. From deep within the trees, a sound rose, the mechanical hum of snowmobiles. Low, approaching fast. His radio remained silent. No warning, no backup, which meant the riders weren't rangers. Poachers. Maya's eyes locked on his again. Urgent, pleading. He had to move. He secured the pup inside his coat once more, then turned to Maya's trap. The steel jaws were half frozen, and blood-slick the release mechanism, requiring precision and calm Ethan barely had. He whispered softly to her as he worked, drawing on the old rhythm of their partnership tone and presence, not words. The first spring released with a metallic snap. Maya flinched but didn't move. The second resisted the cold, fusing it in place. Ethan gritted his teeth and applied pressure, snow crunching beneath his boots. The jaws finally slackened. Maya yanked her leg free and limped immediately to the pup, nosing it gently, before shifting her stance, turning toward the sound of the engines. She would fight. No, Ethan whispered. Not this time. We run. But Maya stood her ground, injured leg trembling beneath her, her body coiled with protective rage. Voices pierced the cold. One he recognized, James Crawford, his supervisor. Ethan's heart dropped. James had sent him to this sector, and James knew about the traps. The betrayal stung harder than the cold. Ethan grabbed Maya's bandage from his pack, working fast to stop the bleeding. The pup stirred weakly against his chest. They had minutes, seconds, before they were discovered. Maya growled low, her gaze fixed through the trees. Ethan exhaled once. They had to disappear. The snowmobiles grew louder, chewing through the silence of the forest like distant thunder. Ethan scrambled to erase any sign of their presence, brushing away footprints covering blood trails with fallen pine boughs. He tucked the sedated pup tighter against his chest and gestured to Maya, who limped after him into the cover of dense evergreens. They reached a narrow thicket, just wide enough to crawl through. Ethan hunkered down behind a fallen log. Maya pressed against him, panting softly. He could feel her muscles tremble, not from fear, but from pain and readiness. The German shepherd's eyes stayed locked on the trail behind them. Moments later, 3 men entered the clearing. James Crawford led them, stripped of his ranger uniform and dressed in sleek winter hunting gear. The rifle slung casually across his back made Ethan's stomach twist. Behind him trailed a heavy-set man with a permanent scowl and a third young lanky, visibly uneasy. Mike Reynolds. Someone's been here, James said coldly, scanning the trap Ethan had disarmed. Walker's the only ranger in this sector today. He might have just freed the animals and left Mike offered shifting on his feet. If that were true, he would have radioed it. And James snapped. He's still out here. Ethan held his breath. Maya was rigid beside him, her growl barely audible, a low rumble of restrained fury. Then, like a miracle, Mike's voice rang out again. Over here, I found tracks heading east. The other 2 snapped their attention away from Ethan's hiding spot. You sure? The heavy-set man asked. Positive. Deep footprints. Looks like he was carrying something heavy. They moved. Fast. Following the false trail Mike had created. Only after the voices faded into the trees did Ethan finally breathe. Maya let out a soft huff and collapsed against the snow. Ethan ran a hand gently over her neck. That kid just saved our lives, he whispered. But why? There was no time to dwell. The pup needed real medical care. Maya's wound was slowing her, and the safest place was his cabin off the main patrol route, isolated and quiet. Ethan rose, scooped up the pup again, and led Maya through the trees. Their path was slow, the shepherd's injured leg forcing frequent stops. Ethan checked the pup constantly, still breathing but barely. The forest offered no warmth, only the urgency of survival. It took them nearly 2 hours to reach Ethan's cabin. By the time they arrived, the winter sun had begun its slow descent behind the ridgeline, casting long blue shadows through the trees. Maya limped heavily now, her breathing labored, but she never once strayed from Ethan's side. The cabin stood at the edge of a narrow clearing, weathered wood, a stone chimney, and a wraparound porch blanketed in snow. Ethan scanned the perimeter out of habit before helping Maya inside. The pup lay motionless in his jacket, its chest rising and falling shallowly. Once inside, Ethan wasted no time. He cleared space on the table and gently unwrapped the pup. A faint whimper escaped its throat as he examined the small body, still trembling, still poisoned, but alive. Malnourishment showed in the ribs and scars around its legs, hinted at long-term confinement. This wasn't a wild pup. It had come from somewhere, or someone. Maya collapsed beside the hearth, her injured legs stretched out. Ethan approached her slowly, murmuring reassurances. She didn't growl this time. She just watched him with eyes that shimmered with pain and trust. "You were always too stubborn to die," he whispered, his voice catching. He cleaned and bandaged her wound with practiced hands. The gash was deep but clean. If he kept it disinfected, it would heal, though she might carry a limp for the rest of her life. She tolerated his care in silence, occasionally glancing toward the pup, with soft whines of concern. The knock at the door came like a gunshot. Ethan froze, hand instinctively reaching for the hunting rifle mounted by the entryway. Maya was up in a flash, injured leg shaking, but posture rigid, positioned squarely between the pup and the door. Then a voice. "Ethan, it's Mike Reynolds. I'm alone. We need to talk." Cautiously, Ethan opened the door rifle at his side. Mike stood in the snow, pale and nervous, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. He looked past Ethan into the room and saw Maya and the pup. His expression shifted from shock to awe to guilt. "So it's true," Mike murmured. "You found them." Ethan didn't lower the rifle. "Why did you help us?" Mike took off his hat, fingers fidgeting with the brim. "Because I didn't sign up to hurt rangers or dogs. I needed the money. Crawford called it conservation work. Said we were relocating dangerous predators. I found out too late what kind of relocation he meant." The truth settled heavily between them just as the cabin's shadows lengthened. Ethan studied Mike's face, looking for lies. He found only remorse, raw and shaken. The pup whimpered softly from its spot by the hearth, drawing both men's eyes. Mike's gaze lingered. "That pup needs a real vet," he said. "Whatever they used on those traps. It's not just sedatives. I've seen it kill foxes in under an hour." "I gave it atropine," Ethan replied. "But it won't be enough." Mike nodded slowly. "Dr. Chen, at the rehab center. She's not part of this. She can help." Ethan weighed his options. Chen had always been kind, competent, but he'd kept her at arm's length like everyone else. Now, he didn't have a choice. "I'll need help getting Maya and the pup there," he said. "The main access road's a death trap if Crawford's watching it." "I know another way," Mike replied. "Meet me at the back trailhead tonight. I'll bring supplies, bandages, your satellite phone, that carrier crate from your office. Everything you'll need." Ethan scribbled a quick list and handed it to him. "You're risking a lot." "Why?" Mike glanced at Maya, who watched him with sharp, assessing eyes. "My grandfather had dogs like her in the military. Said they saved more lives than most soldiers. When I saw what Crawford did to her pup, something broke. Some lines you don't cross. Not even for money." Ethan nodded once, then opened the door. "Go, before they start wondering where you are." The cabin returned to silence, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the soft, restless breaths of the pup. Ethan turned to Maya, crouched beside her, gently changing her bandage. She licked his hand, once a small gesture, but it hit him like a lightning bolt of memory. Sarah would have wept to see her like this, alive, scarred, stronger than ever. "She always said you were the smart one," he murmured. "Looks like you found your own reason to keep going." Maya shifted slightly, her body pressing closer to the pup, as if to answer. She had survived not by hiding, but by protecting. She hadn't just endured the wild, she had adapted, evolved, and found something to love again. The thought filled Ethan's chest with something unfamiliar after years of grief. Hope. True to his word, Mike returned after nightfall, slipping through the dark like a shadow. He brought the supplies Ethan needed, the specialized carrier for the pup food, antibiotics, and the satellite phone Ethan kept locked in his desk. By midnight, they were ready. Ethan secured the barely conscious pup into the padded carrier. Maya, her leg wrapped tightly in fresh gauze, stood beside him, steady but limping. Every step would be agony, yet her eyes were clear-focused. The route Mike had suggested wound along Blackwater Creek, avoiding the roads near headquarters. Under normal conditions, it was a 90-minute hike. With Maya injured and the pup in tow, Ethan expected at least 3 hours. The stars hung low over the preserve, glittering with indifference. The forest was still. Maya moved like a ghost through the trees, her gait slow but determined. Every few hundred yards, she paused, sniffing the air, scanning the shadows, her instincts sharp despite the injury. Ethan trusted her judgment implicitly, just as he had in the old days. Their rhythm returned like a song half forgotten, but never lost. Then she froze, a low growl built in her chest. Ethan dropped behind a pine, heart racing. Through the trees, beams of light swept across the forest headlights, slow and searching. Ethan caught snippets of men's voices and the high, excited barks of dogs. Crawford's hunting team was out in force, and they were close. Maya didn't move until the lights disappeared beyond a bend. Then she resumed, though slower now, as if the near encounter had sapped something from her. By dawn, they reached the back gate of the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. The chain-link fence gleamed faintly in the morning light. Inside, the building was already stirring. Ethan knocked gently on the side entrance. Dr. Olivia Chen opened the door in her scrubs, a clipboard in hand. Her eyes widened at the sight before her. Ethan pale and grim. Maya limping and battered. And in his arms, the shivering, poisoned pup. "Oh my God." "Ethan," she whispered. "Whose dogs are these?" Ethan's voice was low, raw. "The adult is Maya, my old partner. She's alive. And the pup. It's not hers, but she's been protecting it like it is." Chen's eyes welled with emotion, even as her hands moved with practiced urgency. "Get inside, quickly." The door shut behind them. Dr. Chen moved swiftly, her demeanor shifting from shock to clinical focus. She cleared a table and gestured for Ethan to place the pup down. "What happened?" she asked, inspecting the pup's pale gums and barely focused eyes. "Thioprine," Ethan said grimly. "I gave atropine about 12 hours ago." Not enough, and Maya's leg was caught in a steel trap, illegal and designed to hold animals twice her size. Chen's mouth tightened as she worked. "This isn't random." "Poachers," Crawford Ethan replied. She paused just a beat, but it was enough to confirm her suspicion. "I thought something was off. A cougar I treated last month was poisoned, same compound." Crawford said it wandered in from another forest. "He lied," Ethan said. "He's using preserve resources traps, schedules patrol routes. Mike helped me escape, but we're in danger." Chen gently inserted an IV into the pup's foreleg. "Well, you're safe for now. This pup's lucky." And Maya, her voice softened as she cleaned the German Shepherd's wound. "She's incredible. Her vitals are strong, but she needs antibiotics and rest. That leg may never fully recover." Maya remained still through it all, eyes never leaving her pup, as if ensuring she was truly safe, before tending to herself. Ethan Chen said carefully, "This pup has a microchip, military grade, not a pet ID. Someone important is looking for it." Ethan's gut clenched. Mike said Crawford took 3 pups from an abandoned military kennel near the Canadian border. "Maya's been protecting this one like it's hers." Chen nodded. "Then someone bred these dogs for more than companionship." She turned serious. "They can stay here. I'll use the isolation room. No one checks it without my clearance. But if Crawford suspects you're alive and with them," Ethan finished her sentence, "he'll come. And soon." His satellite phone buzzed. "A message from Mike Crawford knows you took the dogs. He's sending his full team, hunting crews on forest roads. Be careful." Ethan showed it to Chen. She didn't flinch. "Stay here with them. I'll intercept anyone who shows up." He looked down at Maya resting beside the now sleeping pup. Her eyes met his, tired but alert, as if awaiting his next move. They had survived the wild. Now came the hunt. The moment stretched inside that sterile room, Ethan crouched beside Maya. The pup curled in a blanket nest under an IV drip. Exhaustion tugged at his limbs, but urgency clawed louder. His satellite phone buzzed again. Pulled preserve records. Found something big. Meet me. Fire lookout tower. Midnight. Mike. The old tower was 5 miles through dense patrolled forest. Ethan stood slowly, eyes scanning the pup's form. Still alive, but fragile. Maya stirred, sensing his shift in energy. She rose wobbly but ready. Chen entered with antibiotics and news. Crawford's called an emergency meeting. He's saying you stole government animals, that you're unstable from grief. Ethan gave a bitter laugh. Now I'm a poacher and a lunatic. Chen's jaw tightened. The staff may not believe him, but he's organizing a full search. And he has the board's backing. I have to meet Mike, Ethan said. He says he found proof. Chen nodded, but her gaze dropped to the pup. It shouldn't be moved again. The treatment needs at least 24 hours. A silence passed. I'll stay with the pup, she offered. Say I'm treating a fox kit, filed the paperwork already entered in the system. Ethan looked to Maya. She had padded softly to the pup's side, nuzzling it once before turning back toward him. Her eyes were clear, focused. She'll go where you go, Chen said gently. Anyone can see that. By nightfall, Maya's limp had eased slightly. The pup stirred now and then, its breathing stronger, but its eyes still unfocused. Ethan prepared his gear, choosing the safer, longer route through the burn scar region. Less cover, but fewer patrols. As they departed under the dark canopy of pines, Chen handed Ethan a small radio. Private frequency. Crawford doesn't monitor it. I'll call if anything changes. He tucked it into his pack. If anyone asks, he said, you found a fox kit, she finished. Already done. Then her tone changed, soft but firm. Be careful, Ethan. Crawford's told his team to use tranquilizers if needed. Claims you're a danger to yourself. Perfect. As the forest swallowed them whole once again, Ethan moved quietly with Maya beside him, her gait still uneven, but her spirit unshaken. The fire tower was hours away, and Crawford's men would be hunting. But so were they. The forest wrapped around them like a living shadow. Ethan and Maya moved in practiced silence, tracing a narrow ridge that paralleled the main access road. From above, they watched the search unfold, vehicles crawling, searchlights, sweeping hounds barking. Twice they froze, hidden behind logs or rocks, Maya detecting danger seconds before Ethan. 3 miles in, her body stiffened again, ears pricked, breath tight. A flashlight beam cut through the trees. Voices, footsteps, panting, tracking dogs. Ethan acted fast. He stripped off his outer jacket, dragged it across pine needles, then tossed it into the underbrush 20 yards off trail. He brushed out their real prints and laid a false path toward a dense thicket. Then he grabbed Maya and led her to a narrow creek bed. The freezing water bit through his boots as they waded silently downstream for a quarter mile. By the time they emerged, Maya was trembling, but still walking. Ethan checked his watch. 40 minutes until midnight. 2 miles to go. They moved uphill, the forest thinning as they neared the tower's ridge. From the final rise, Ethan saw it. The fire lookout silhouetted against a sky of cold stars. A single light glowed in the window. Mike had arrived. Ethan gave Maya the signal. She circled the tower's base once, scouting for danger despite her limp. When she returned with no sign of threat, they ascended the groaning wooden steps. At the top, Ethan knocked softly. The door opened. Mike's face was pale with relief. I thought they got you. Inside, the old lookout had become a war room, maps, documents, and a laptop glowing in the corner. Maya entered, first head low, sniffing the air, then settled at Ethan's feet. What did you find? Ethan asked. Mike pointed to a map littered with red circles. These zones match rare mineral survey reports. Crawford's been removing predators, wolves, Cougars, even Maya, from those sectors to weaken the preserve's protected status. He's clearing the way for mining. Ethan felt the weight of it settle like fresh snow. Who's backing him? Mike handed him printed emails. Victor Hargrove, Swiss billionaire, private wildlife collector, major shareholder in North Star Mining. Crawford selling the animals and the land. But it didn't end there. Part 5B, the fire tower. Mike opened a folder on the laptop. Project Guardian, he said grimly. They were breeding dogs with enhanced scent abilities, specially trained to detect rare minerals. Your pup. It's one of them. That microchip. It's a tracking system tied to this program. Ethan leaned in, scanning Specs Photo's lab notes. They're replacing survey teams with dogs. No permits. No oversight. No one notices. Mike nodded. And Maya. They called her the Ghost Shepherd. She's disabled over 30 traps in the last year. Crawford made her a priority target. Before Ethan could respond, Maya stood growling low. Through the eastern windows, headlights appeared. Vehicles cresting the ridge, converging. How did they find us? Mike whispered. Ethan's jaw clenched. The laptop. You accessed their network. Mike paled. They're here, Ethan said. We need to move. Now. As Mike scrambled to gather evidence, Ethan scanned their options. East and south were blocked. North face was a vertical drop. Only the western slope through the old burn zone offered any hope. Boots crunched below. Flashlights swept across snow. Walker is up there with Reynolds' used tranks if necessary. But I want them alive. Crawford's voice echoed like a war drum. They're not letting us walk away, Ethan said grimly. Whatever happens, that flash drive gets to the authorities. Mike nodded and tapped his boot. Left side, hidden inside. A creak on the stairs. A shout. No more time. Ethan led them through the tower's side hatch onto the narrow maintenance ladder. Maya went first, descending carefully despite her wound. Ethan followed. Mike brought up the rear. A dart whizzed past Ethan's face, thudding into the beam beside him. They hit the ground running, slipping between two guards, just as orders erupted behind them. They vanished into the burn zone, black trees, ash-soft ground, and the wild night stretching ahead. They ran through the skeletal remains of the old burn section, the forest stripped bare by fire, but alive now with danger. Ash crunched underfoot. Behind them, searchlights swept like spears through the night, and the furious barking of scent hounds closed in. Maya led the way, limping but unrelenting. Ethan and Mike followed, dodging fallen limbs, ducking low branches. The map in Ethan's head guided them toward Coldwater Canyon, where the creek might mask their trail again. We're not going to outrun those dogs. Mike gasped, stumbling to catch his breath behind a blackened stump. We don't need to outrun them, Ethan replied. We just need to reach the water. The canyon rim rose before them, steep, jagged, unforgiving. Maya veered sharply, pushing through dense brush to reveal a narrow game trail hidden along the ridge. Without hesitation, she led them into the descent. Ethan followed, then Mike. They were halfway down when the trail crumbled beneath Mike's boots. His cry shattered the stillness as he tumbled through loose rock and dirt, vanishing into the dark below. Mike, Ethan shouted. He scrambled down, heart-thundering, Maya at his heels. 30 feet below Mike's body lay crumpled on a narrow ledge. Blood pooled under his head, unmoving. Ethan reached him, pressed fingers to the young man's neck, a pulse faint but real. He's alive, he said aloud to Maya, to himself. Barely. From above, voices called out searchers reaching the rim. Beams of light began piercing the walls of the canyon. There was no cover, no time. Ethan looked up the slope, then down toward the canyon floor, still 100 vertical feet below. Mike couldn't be carried. Not fast enough. Not in time. In his pocket, Ethan felt the weight of the flash drive. Evidence. Names. Locations. The only chance to save the preserve. and protect Maya. And the pup. But leaving Mike meant leaving him to die. Beside him, Maya pressed close, her eyes meeting his with unflinching intensity. She didn't whimper, didn't urge, just waited, the same way she always had, back when they used to leap from helicopters together into frozen forests to pull strangers from the edge of death. Ethan's throat tightened. He made his decision. "I'm not leaving him," he whispered. Maya stood taller beside him, ready. Ethan moved fast. He stabilized Mike's neck with strips torn from his own thermal undershirt, fashioned a makeshift sling for the arm twisted at his side. Blood still seeped from the head wound, darkening the stone beneath him. The young man groaned, a fragile sign of life. Above, voices shouted. The searchlights grew sharper, closer. Maya scanned the canyon rim, her ears swiveling, calculating. Though her legs still trembled, she didn't hesitate. When Ethan crouched to lift Mike, she pressed ahead, navigating the unstable rocks, testing each ledge. Ethan followed, carrying Mike across jagged switchbacks. Every step threatened to send all three tumbling into the ravine below. But Maya guided them, pausing, at turns finding the safest descent, her instincts sharpened by years in the wild. Finally, they reached the canyon floor. The icy stream whispered between its banks, shallow but swift. Ethan splashed through, cradling Mike. The cold bit into his legs, but the water would cloak their scent again. Dawn bloomed faintly on the horizon. Behind them, confusion broke out. The pursuers had reached the crumbled trail and found it impassable. Shouts rang across the canyon walls, echoing in frustration. They had a few precious minutes. Ethan spotted a rock overhang, tucked behind a curtain of hanging roots, a narrow cave, nearly invisible. Maya pushed through first, then turned, waiting. Ethan ducked inside with Mike still cradled in his arms. The darkness swallowed them. Inside, the space was cramped but dry. Ethan laid Mike down and stripped off his wet coat, wrapping it around the unconscious man. He pressed his fingers to Mike's throat again. Slower now, but steady. Beside him, Maya rested her chin on her paws, eyes fixed on the entrance, guarding, silent. They had survived the night. Ethan leaned back, spine against the stone wall, every muscle burning, but his chest full of something strange and bright. Not relief, not yet, but the beginning of it. The flash drive was still in his pocket. The pup was safe with Chen. The truth everything Crawford had tried to bury was finally within reach. He looked down at Maya, whose eyes met his with that same unwavering clarity that had once led them into blizzards and pulled people back from death. He placed a hand gently on her head. "We're not done," he whispered, "but we're not alone anymore."